Good morning, everyone. Our IT application tools and business topic for today is all about formulas and functions. Semi-selection to create formula. So first, what is semi-selection formula? Semi-selection formula is a pointing process where you click or drag to select cells to add cell references to a formula. So semi-selection uses the mouse pointer to build a formula containing cell references or range. This technique may also be called pointing. So to use the semi-selection technique to create a formula, first we must click the cell where we want to create the formula. Next is to put an equal sign to start a formula and drag to select the cell range that contains the value to use in the formula. Next is the relative, absolute, and mixed cell references in formula. So in Excel, offers three types of cell references for use when a formula is copied. So there are relative, absolute, and mixed. Relative and absolute references behave differently when copied and filled to other cells. Relative references change when a formula is copied to another cell. Absolute references, on the other hand, remain constant no matter where they are copied, while a mixed reference in Excel is a type of cell reference different from other two absolute and relative. So we only refer to the cells column or row in the mixed cell reference. So just like in the example as we can see in the picture. Next is how to prevent circular references in Excel. So the first step is we must go to the files, select options, and then select the formula button. The next step is to put a check mark on the button that says enable iterative calculation. Functions. An Excel function is a predefined formula that performs calculations without physically using a calculator. So functions can be used to perform simple and even complex calculations. A function begins with the equal sign, followed by the function names and arguments in parentheses. So in inserting a function, click the cell where we want to type the formula. So as you can see, it displays these functions just like an example. So when a function is typed, formula autocomplete displays a list of functions matching the partial entry, just like in the example.
Inserting basic statistical functions. So first, let's define what statistical functions are. So these are used when a mathematical process is required for a range of cells, such as assuming the values in several cell locations. For these computations, functions are preferable to formulas because adding many cell locations one at a time to a formula can be very time consuming. So in the first image, we could actually see a recurrence of the average or arithmetic mean of the arguments. For example, if the range A1, A20 contains numbers, the formula is equals average open parenthesis A1 column A20 close parenthesis, which then returns the average of those numbers. It is also depicted in the second image. Then the third image shows in how the MIN will return the minimum value in a given list of arguments. From a given set of numeric values, it will return the smallest value. We have here some examples of data functions. We have if functions, SUMIFS function, and COUNTIFs function. So if function. This function means we can automate decision making in our spreadsheet. Next, SUMIFS function. It sums values that meet specified criteria. COUNTIFs function. The COUNTIFs function will count the number of values that meet specified criteria. It, therefore, does not require a sum range like SUMIFS. If function. With if, we could get Excel to perform a different calculation or display a different value dependent on the outcome of a logical test or a decision. The if function asks you for the logical test to perform, what action to take if the test is true, and the alternative action if the result of the test is false. So if it is used for a logical test to show if the value is true and if the value is false. So you could actually see the example provided that shows in how we can use the if function. So we have lookup function. Use lookup. One of the lookup and reference functions when you need to look in a single row or column and find a value from the same position in a second row or column. So there are actually two ways to use lookup. We have a vector form and array form. So vector form. Use this form of lookup to search one row or one column for a value. Use the vector form when you want to specify the range that contains the values that you want to match. For example, if you want to search for a value in column A down to row 6, then array form. The array form is provided for compatibility with other spreadsheet programs, but its functionality is limited. An array is a collection of values in rows, and columns are like a table that you want to search. For example, if you want to search columns A and B down to row 6, lookup will return the nearest match. To use the array form, your data must be sorted. In other words, vector form is used when there is a need to specify the range from which a corresponding match is to be returned. The array form is used when the lookup or search value is in the first row or column and the corresponding match is in the last or row column. Calculate payments with the PMT function. The PMT function is categorized under financial Excel functions. The function helps calculate the total payment or principal and interest required to settle a loan or an investment with a fixed interest rate over a specified time period. Here is the formula: PMT, which includes the rate, and PER, PV, FV, and type. So the PMT functions uses the following arguments. You have the first one, rate. It is a required argument. So this is the interest rate of the loan. Next, we have NPER. It is also a required argument. It is the total number of payments for the loan taken. The third one, we have PB. That is also a required argument. It is the present value or total amount that a series of future payments is worth now. It is also termed as the principal of a loan. The fourth one is FD. It is an optional argument. This is the future value or a cash balance we want to attain after the last payment is made. If FD is omitted, it is assumed to be a zero, that is, the future value of a loan is zero. You have the fifth one, type. It is also an optional argument. The type of day count basis to use, possible values of the basis are: the basis is zero or omitted, its day count basis is US NASD 30 over 360. If the basis is 1, the day count basis is actual over actual. If the basis is 2, The day count basis is actual over 360. If the basis is 3, the day count basis is actual over 365. If the basis is 4, the day count basis is European 30 over 360. So how to use the PMT function in Excel? As a worksheet function, the PMT function can be entered as part of a formula in a cell of a worksheet. To understand the uses of PMT, let us consider an example. Assume that we need to invest in such a manner that after 2 years we'll receive $75,000. The rate of interest is 3.5 interest per year, and the payment will be made at the start of each month. The details are: you have the rate of interest, which is 3.50%, which is given already. You have NPER, which is 24, and PV, which is the present value or the total amount that a series of future payment is worth, which is 75,000. So the formula in getting the monthly investment is click the equal sign, then type PMT, then click the rate of interest, which is 3.50%, which could result to the C4, divide it by 12, then click the NPER, which is 24, to get the C5, then click the PV to get the C6. Then we get the results, which is the monthly investments is $3,240.20. The above function returns PMT as $3,240.20. This is the monthly cash outflow required to realize $75 in 2 years. So in this example, the payments into the investment are on a monthly basis. Hence, the annual interest rate is converted to a monthly rate. Also, we converted the years into months, which is 2 times 12 is equals to 24. The type or argument is set to 1 to indicate that the payment of the investment will be made at the beginning of each period. As per the general cash flow convention, outgoing payments are represented by negative numbers, and incoming payments are represented by positive numbers. As the value returned is negative, it indicates an outgoing payment is to be made. The value $3,240.20 includes the principal and interest but no taxes, reserve payments, or fees.
So now, let's proceed to range names. How to create a named range from selected cells in a worksheet. You can quickly create a named range by using a selection of cells in the worksheet. Note: named ranges that are created from selecting cells have a workbook level scope. So the first step is to select the range you want to name, including the row or column labels. Second, click Formulas, then Create it from Selection. Third, in the Create Names from Selection dialog box, select the checkbox depending on the location of your row or column header. If you have only a header row at the top of the table, then just select Top Row. Suppose you have a top row and left column header, then select top row and left column options, and so on. And then click OK. Use range names and formulas. By using names, you can make your formulas much easier to understand and maintain. You can define a name for a cell range, function, constant, or table. Once you adopt the practice of using names in your workbook, you can easily update, audit, and manage these names and These are the steps in naming a cell. Select a cell, and then in the name box, type a name, and then press enter. To reference this value in another table, type the equal sign and the name, then select enter. Define names from a selected range. First step, select the range you want to name, including the row or column. Ay, balik. Balik. Wait, ay, yan. Balik. No. Ay, wala day. Kita ko, So now, define names from selected range. The first step is select the range you want to name, including the row or column labels. And then select formulas, then create from selection. The third step is in the create names from selection dialog box, designate the location that contains the labels by selecting the top row, left column, bottom row, or right column checkbox. And lastly, select OK. Excel names the cells based on the labels in the range you designated. Use names in formulas. Select a cell and enter a formula. And then, place the cursor where you want to use the name in that formula. Third, type the first letter of the name and select the name from the list that appears. Fourth, or select formulas, then use in formula and select the name you want to use, and then press enter. Manage names in your workbook with Name Manager. On the ribbon, go to Formulas, then Name Manager. You can then create, edit, delete, and find all the names used in the workbook. So that is all, and I hope that you've learned a lot from our report. Thank you, and God bless.